So my name is Frank Hopfgartner. I'm Senior Lecturer in Data Science at the University of Sheffield, and I'm coordinator of the Data Science program. So with me here is also my colleague Joe Bates, who is Senior Lecturer in Information Politics and Policy, also at the University of Sheffield, and she's the Deputy Coordinator of the Data Science program. In this talk, we're going to reflect on our efforts to integrate FATE topics into our data science curriculum. We split the talk into two parts. In the first part, I'm first going to talk about our data science program a little bit to give you some more context. And then I hand over to Joe, who will talk about a study reflecting on the FATE topics. So the data science program that we have here in Sheffield has first started in 2014, 2015 with only 20 students. However, we've seen a very large growth since then, very fast growth, in fact, to over 100 students in right now as well. It's a one-year program in the UK. It can be split into 2 or 3 years if you do it part-time. And it has recently been labeled as a top 10 program at the University of Sheffield. So it's we're quite proud of the way how this program has developed. What we can, I think, say proudly enough as well now, or confident enough, is that we are past the kind of young phase of the program, so we have a good understanding of what works and what doesn't work of our students. And so we have reached a certain level of maturity with this program. So what we teach in there, so this program is offered by the Information School, which is part of the Faculty of Social Science, which means that we try to find the right balance between the more techie topics of data science while also focusing more on the societal aspects, so societal impacts. The program is structured, it consists of 7 compulsory 15-credit modules, plus a research dissertation, and also then 2 optional 15-credit modules that students can choose from. So the compulsory modules are topics like Introduction to Data Science, Data Analysis, Data Visualization, Data Mining, Database Design. And then, so these were the more technical aspects, but then we also have this module called Data and Society, which Joe is leading, and she will say a bit more about this later, which is focused on power, structure, agency, epistemology, politics of data, algorithms, data citizenship, legal and ethical reasoning. So it's this one module where the students have to reflect much more on the societal impact or on FATE topics. Okay, so I hand over to Joe now.
Okay, thanks, Frank. I hope you can all hear me. I've just had a slight webcam problem and I had to switch to my laptop. So shout if you can't hear me. So yeah, as Frank says, the Data and Society module is really really focused more on the sort of social scientific aspect of data. It's driven by a critical data studies sort of perspective on data science, and is much more focused on issues of power, politics, structure and agency than we might see in a sort of traditional ethics module on a more computational type of degree. So as Frank says, we've been going with the data science program at Sheffield for 5 years last summer, and at that point we thought it was a good opportunity really for us to step back a little bit as a program team and reflect a little bit on how we were working at the intersection of these different disciplines that we were bringing together on the program. We were asking ourselves questions such as how has our data science team evolved its approach to working at the intersection of disciplines? What does this mean for how topics related to FATE and critical data studies are being integrated into the curriculum? So our program team last summer was this group of people here. We've changed slightly since then, but as you can see, we're fairly diverse in disciplinary backgrounds, but or at the time I was the only person with a strong social sciences humanities background. We've appointed another person since last summer, which is great news for the program. But what we decided to do together as a team to explore some of these issues was to run a small research project amongst ourselves over the summer period last year. We wrote this up in a paper that was presented at a FAT conference in Barcelona earlier this year. So if anybody's interested in reading more about what I'm going to present in a moment, there's a link there at the bottom to that paper. So what I'm going to do in the next few slides is just talk a little bit about this research project that we ran amongst ourselves. So in order to try and grapple with these questions that I just posed a couple of slides ago around how, as a programme team, we're working at this intersection of disciplines and what this means for the integration of FAIR and critical data studies into our data science curriculum, we decided to adopt a methodology sort of far outside the realms of data science. We used an approach called collaborative autoethnography, which is a very qualitative methodology. It's essentially a group approach to autoethnography. So autoethnography is ethnography of the self. So the auto relates to the self. So with collaborative autoethnography is about observation and reflection on the self as part of a wider group, as part of a collaboration. So in this type of approach to research, the research team, our programme team, are both the participants in the research and the researchers. So it's like we're collectively researching ourselves. And we did this on this particular project through a combination of individual written reflections in response to a number of provocations about things such as interdisciplinarity and the integration of things such as ethics and so on into computational curricula. And then some group discussions where we explored some of these issues in more depth. We recorded the discussions, and then and everything was transcribed, and then the materials, the data was analysed using a thematic analysis. So the full findings are written up in the paper that we presented at FAT earlier in the year. Here I'm just going to go over some of the key things that we sort of came to learn about ourselves and our approach through doing this research. So one set of key findings was around our current integration of FAIR and critical data studies into our data science programme. I think we'd always quite imagined ourselves as a very interdisciplinary team, but when we really got into thinking about this and analysing what we were doing in more detail, we came to realise that perhaps we were a little bit more on the sort of boundary between multi and interdisciplinary in our approach. And this was mainly as a result of the much of the FAIR and critical data studies teaching and assessment on the module was, on the programme, was siloed in this data and society module that I was running. And whilst we certainly have some strong students who over the years have been able to sort of create their own third space between these modules and bring together the ideas from the data and society module with their work in, for example, data visualization or data mining. We think that for a lot of the students, they take quite a siloed approach to their studies. So they go through the data and society module, they do quite well in their studies, they pass the assessment, but then a lot of that material around the sort of politics and the ethics of data science is lost when they then go on to do their projects on data mining or their dissertation studies. So across the programme team, we observed that all of us had a desire for thinking about ways to better integrate these ideas and values around issues related to fate and politics of data science better into the practical modules. But then we also went on and explored some of the challenges that we were facing in being able to do this. So I think one of the big challenges, and I think this cuts across, all research and teaching work in this field is around the politics of critical data studies and fate. I think that we observed a surface level agreement that these were values that we wanted to uphold as a program team and embed and integrate within the curriculum. But we didn't really have a consensus at a deeper level about what some of these concepts and ideas mean. For example, concepts such as justice and bias, discrimination and things like that. There was not necessarily that similar understanding, I guess, across the program team, and not necessarily time to be able to work out all our different subjective perspectives about those issues. And some of this was certainly to do with different disciplinary backgrounds, and this also came through as we began to acknowledge gaps in individual knowledge about how some of this stuff might be integrated into a data science curriculum. So one example that springs to mind is somebody that leads on the database design part of the program was keen to embed these values into the program, but was unsure about how to do that in a database design context. So clearly there are things that can be done in that context, but there's a sort of process of learning that needs to happen for the teaching team to be confident enough to be able to do that. Another issue that we explored was around internationalisation and our wider efforts beyond this project to decolonise our curriculum. As we mentioned, a lot of our students are international students. We're keen to decolonise our curriculums, and we need to think closely about what that means when we're talking about issues of justice and fairness and things like that, and how we do that integration in a decolonising way rather than just implementing a Eurocentric perspective on the curriculum. And then I guess a couple of pragmatic challenges that came up in our discussions as well, and these some are a bit more particular to the UK context, and some are quite general issues that I imagine a lot of programme teams will experience. So the UK higher education system is heavily marketised. Departments are dependent on student fees for survival, I guess, and therefore are very keen to ensure that what they are offering is something that students are demanding. And I guess there is a bit of uncertainty whether within the international markets that this is the direction of travel that students are wanting in terms of the design of curricula. Don't think that this should be sort of a barrier to us progressing with our work in this area, but it is something that we need to bear in mind. And then the other issue that I guess we're all facing is a time-constrained working environment that we experience in higher education. We've got great ideas, things that we want to do, but all these challenges take a lot of time and energy to work through to make this the best offering that it could be. But we came up with some recommendations that we presented at FAT around things such as the creation of empathetic learning spaces within and between interdisciplinary teaching teams. We think there's a real need for creating open spaces for discussion across the disciplines, where people can feel that they can admit that they don't understand something, they don't know about something, and be able to talk through these sometimes quite sensitive issues in a non-threatening environment. We also think it'd be really useful as a sort of fake community to be able to develop and share really super accessible 101 materials for use in discussion groups that teaching teams might set up to explore some of these issues and how they relate to different aspects of the data science curriculum. We recommended collaboration across borders, particularly with decolonisation experts, which I'm excited to say we now have somebody in the information school that is leading on this and helping the data science team to work through some of these issues. But I think that this is a really important aspect of the work in this area. And finally, there's quite a few data science competency frameworks that have been developed by like the ACM and various others. And we just had a recommendation there about a question around what should a well-designed critical data studies driven data science curriculum actually be addressing. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Frank, who's going to finish off.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. Just to say a few words about this year. Of course, this year was very special because of COVID and not having the face-to-face teaching. So what we changed was, first of all, we have a new lecturer who started, who's focusing also on data and society. So that's a good change. When we adapted to the pandemic, we also introduced things like a hackathon focusing on COVID in particular, where we asked the students specifically to think about fate topics when they're choosing their data sets that they want to analyze. And we also ran a student survey to see how well they felt prepared to actually look at societal impact. We were quite pleased by the results. We haven't completely analyzed it yet, but overall, it seems like they felt very good, very well prepared. The social technical integration that we would like to dip deeper into, they still have to work on. Of course, we had to put them on hold for this year because we were kind of constantly firefighting, I think is the correct term for that. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, please shoot ahead.